Hey, what's up, everybody? Motley GM here. It has been a while, my people, since I've been able to do a game showcase, and I'm really excited to show you this excellent game today. This game is so excellent, in fact, in my opinion, that this video will be included in the My Plea for You to Play Other Tabletop RPGs list as an addendum. I get to introduce you guys to Forge RPG, the Anniversary Edition, one of my personal favorite OSR games, period. For your knowledge, and as you could probably see on the cover here, Forge is an acronym that stands for Fantasy Open Role-Playing Game Engine, and I really don't think he could have named it better. The description really gets it, and I think you're going to agree with me on this one if you actually look at this one a little deeper. As always, I will put some links down below if you do want to pick this up for yourself and take a look. Right away, guys, let me say, I've not been paid to make this video in any way, and everything you see on the table is something that I bought myself. I did briefly speak to the creator of Forge, so he is aware of this video and did give me some encouragement, but that's about it. With that being said, let's move forward. Hey MGM, why the Anniversary Edition, specifically? I hear you conveniently asking me somewhere out there. Well, let me give you a little background on that. I first found Forge a couple of years ago in its first edition, which had a great foundation of what would become this edition, but did suffer from one major issue as far as the channel is concerned. That is AI-generated art. Now, despite that, I was still very impressed by the game itself. So instead of rage quitting and then just leaving the game behind, I took the time to reach out to the writer and creator Oliver Fragile to discuss that very thing with him. And forgive me if I mispronounce your last name, Oliver. I would like to take the time to point out here, though, that Oliver is the only independent creator that I reached out to concerning AI art that was gracious and willing to talk as he was. That really stands out to me compared to the few others that I did reach out to, and they did not greet me so warmly, or openly for that matter. Oliver was, in fact, very open, very gracious, and just a really cool guy. And he told me that he was starting to work on the Anniversary Edition. In that Anniversary Edition, he went on to say he was not only going to fix that very important issue, but that the rules themselves would also be better streamlined, organized, and formatted. I was very happy to hear that, and I was 100% on board. And it wasn't just me. Others in the community also were very excited about that idea, and all of us took time to encourage that very project. Now, an artist named Brandon Yu, who goes by Chaocalypse, I believe, I hope I'm saying that right as well, joined in and was able to give some of that human art that we all really desired. Well, as you can see here, our encouragement and the waiting were not in vain, because we got this wonderful game with real art in the process. Now, let me give you guys this disclaimer. There's not a lot of art in here. There is some, and the addition of the real art, for me, really did change the aesthetic of the game and definitely made me feel more pleased with the overall product that I received at the end. However, there's not a lot of it. So you're expecting a lot of art? No, but the art that's in there is human-made art, and to me, a little bit of human-made art is always going to be so much better than a ton of AI-generated art, and that's just where I stand on the channel here. So I just want to give that disclaimer. We're not going to see as much art as you may have seen in other books, but the art that you will see is handmade. Good job, guys. Really good job on that collaboration. To continue on with the backstory, and to tell you how I understand it, and also to be transparent, that the encouragement and the little bit of feedback that myself and those others gave put our names into the special thanks section on the first page. Now, I gotta say, I'm very humbled to see my name in the company of some of the others that are on that list. And Oliver, if you are watching this, it's a huge honor to be on that list, so thank you so very much. All that said, guys, and I know what you really want to know, is what is Forge, and why do you like it so darn much, MGM? Well, let me do a little show and tell here so that you can see. Now, if you watched my last video, you know that I don't have all of my typical equipment with me, so there will be a bit of a format change. Instead of my usual PDF view, I will actually be flipping through the physical book for this showcase. If you like that better, please let me know below, and I'll try to change the format permanently. But hey, let's get on to the show and tell part, huh? Forge is based off of OD&D and other OSR games. Forge RPG is a familiar D20, 6 stats with modifiers, roll over a target number system that does not have classes, but does have all the rules you might look for written in a beautifully efficient way. I really appreciate those things a lot, and will probably point them out as I go through the book here. On the first page here, I want to draw your attention to the attribution section. There's a ton of great stuff that is pointed out here, and I don't mean to diminish any other of the products here, but I really want you to focus on the first 5 here. We have Knave, Maze Rats, Old School Essentials, Basic Fantasy, and D&D Rules Cyclopedia. These games are the ones I feel you see the DNA the most in this book, and I'm sure that's why they're listed the way they are, but you really can see the DNA of these games in the book. And these being the basis of this system, to me, is one of the reasons why it's able to be so complete. And I just really like that a lot. And I say that in the most complimentary way possible, because it's definitely its own system, but you can see where the pieces of other games fit together to create this system so beautifully. Quick look at the quick reference sheet. Now, the quick reference, guys, this is definitely going to be more of have this open during combat, but everything you really need for that is right here, and I love it. I love how well it's put together and easy it is to find. Now here we're going to take a look at the running the game system, and just so you get the idea, there's a lot of information packed on these pages, but it's not an overwhelming amount, and things are written in a way where you understand them, but doesn't give you too much fluff. This is something that I absolutely love about this entire book. He's able to fit a lot of content in a very small amount. And talking with Oliver, he did allude to the idea of boiling a lot of more complex ideas down to their more simple form. And I can't tell you how much I personally appreciate that in this game. The way the rules are written, to me, is an excellent example of how this should be done, especially in an OSR style game. These rules are written with enough flexibility to allow dynamic stories to happen, but also enough description to give clear boundaries. I mean, everything is written that way, and it's one of the things I appreciate so much about this game. It makes learning the rules and even looking them up much more simple, and it's easy to remember the rules when you don't have paragraphs and paragraphs of just one rule to try to remember. Very appreciated. Now here on the left, you see the distance and movement page, and just look at how they put all the important information together as far as the distance and movement area. Not only do you get the typical combat stuff, but you get wilderness exploration, you get dungeon exploration, evasion or pursuit, some hazard exploration things to think about, and then how resting affects healing. Makes a lot of sense. Now here, we're looking at combat here, very, very familiar combat. So we're not going to go into all the rules here. I want you to see how very economically that the rules are written to make it so that it's easy to understand and remember without getting too flowery, so there's some flexibility. And you're going to see this theme throughout the book. Flexibility with just enough boundary. This kind of really explains my GM style, which is probably what draws me to this game so well. It is written in a way that fits my personal GM style so well, and the GM style that I advocate for. I really can't praise that aspect of this enough. But because these rules are also familiar, they're very easy to pick up even if you don't read through everything, and then skimming through will answer those small questions that might come up during play. Stopping here really quick on player characters, I want to show you how with the starting attributes, you pick primary attributes right away. There's 2 of them that you usually choose, and that goes into the quick equipment as well. This is very Knave 2-esque, with I think a little bit more to it than Knave 2 added in there. But having primary stats allows you to build characters out that look a lot like classes. So if you're a person that likes classes, this is a good way to introduce something very similar to classes, even though you're really just using a classless system. And these are easy to manipulate and turn into whatever you want. Allow me to give you an example on the next page. Now here with the cleric, you can see that suggested quick equipment also says to put wisdom and charisma as your primary attributes. I wanted to build a war cleric, so I took out the charisma and added strength instead, manipulated the exact things that the character got a little bit as far as equipment went, and boom, I was able to build a quick and easy war cleric with just a couple of tweaks. And that's what I love about the examples of the quick equipment here. These things are very adjustable and are even easy to mix and match if you want to do what might be considered multi-classing in a different game. So once again, I just love the way the quick equipment is put together. It allows you to put a class-like system in a classless game, and I think that's pretty cool. If we look over here to the right, shopping, shopping here does two things that I think are great. Number one, it uses a gold piece only system. And for GMs that don't want to delve too deep into having huge economies, a gold piece based system with no other coin but the gold pieces is an easy way to do it, and this sets it out for you. You don't even have to figure out prices. There's enough examples of pricing here that you can use the gold piece system and just be fine with that, which is something I really appreciate a lot, because I think a lot of GMs stress over these minute details, which are easily laid out right here without adding a whole bunch of text into the mix. The example alone is enough for you to use for your game, and I love that quite a bit. The other thing I like is that within the shopping area, you can even have your hirelings and mercenaries and people that you can hire to do things for you, including getting training if you want. These are really great little things included in here that you don't get in all the OSR games necessarily, and he does it in a very succinct way, which again, I love that. Speaking of followers, mercenaries and stuff, the followers rules are here, and again, one page, very succinctly written, very economic, but still with enough of everything you need to run these in your game, and I love that. Next to that, we have the domains and player-owned buildings. This is another little thing that I like so much, because this is a question a lot of players end up having, is what if I want to have a place of my own? And this is a really simple, easy way to do that that's not cumbersome, but also has enough that it gives the players things to bite on. The thing I really want you to notice about how these rules are written is we're not bogged down with all these extra charts and bloat that might plague some other games out there. All right, guys, I'm not going to show you all the spells, of course, but I wanted to stop on this page of spells. Now, notice how these spells are written. Again, we can look to games like Knave or Cairn, first or second edition in that case, and see a great similarity here. These spells are written short, descriptive, but flexible. And these are, in my opinion, the best kind of spells you can have. This allows players to get a little bit creative with what they have, but within a constraint. And I think that's the best way to play a game. Having at least a little bit of flexibility for your players to make a spell their own, I think is a really big deal. The more you write in a spell, the more you take that away from a player. And this is just my opinion, but that's the way I look at it. This way you give a really good foundation for the spell, but allows a little bit of flexibility to create a spell that's just for your character. And I think that's really cool. Very well done here, sir. Now, as we flip through a couple of these other things, I want you to notice just the great roll tables and some of the little tools and tips they give you for traveling and the quests you're going to have. Roll tables for wilderness, settlements, and we get to our creatures. Not only do they give examples of how you could create your own creatures, which is something I always love in a game, but a great example list of creatures and their stat blocks, which are very simple. Again, look at how these stat blocks are not over cumbersome and they're not full of extra bloat that doesn't need to be there. This is something I really appreciate. Now, the one thing I know a lot of people might not be the biggest fan of is there's no illustrations for the creatures. This is not something that bothers me very much, but I know I've heard other people saying that that's something they don't always like. So if anything, Oliver, if you're watching this, maybe an illustrated bestiary in the future to go along with this. But beyond that, the descriptions and the stat blocks themselves are very easy, very intuitive, and quick to look up and understand. Just wanted to show you that this game also offers solo tools in case you do want to do solo. Now, I know solo gaming is something that's taking off pretty big right now. If you're into solo gaming, Forge has rules for it right within the rule set, and I think that's great. Because I also wanted to show off a little bit of the art here while we were here. But yes, awesome tools that are in this book. The roll tables are definitely on par with stuff that Ben Milton does, that Dice Geek do. Some of the really good roll table writers out there, from my opinion at least, he's on par with those, with the roll tables he's put back here. So if you check this out, you can easily build your world and NPCs from the roll tables alone and be able to make hundreds, possibly even thousands of combinations. Always welcome in a core book. Just like the rest of the book, the character sheet is written in a way that gives you a lot of information in a small place. Again, you have areas for your primary stats, your modifiers, and everything. And then it tells you essentially what all these numbers mean and how they fit together to the other parts of the sheet there. I think that's a very small but genius move by Oliver. I really love the way that's set up. And a simple but awesome drawing right here. Just showing off one more of the pictures you can see in the book here. There's other small ones, but I'll let you guys discover those for yourself. Just want to show you guys this last page here really quick of the Paragon rules. Now, Paragon rules are basically rules modifications that will give your players an increase of essential power, giving them the ability to take on more than they could by themselves. And the idea behind this is if you have a really small party, 1, 2, maybe 3 players that are going into very dangerous, very hard adventures that you often find in OSR, typically won't survive those adventures. So adding a little bit of a buffer, in this case these Paragon rules, is a really great way to do that. And not only does he spell it out, but gives you a little summary of the rule changes. That's really easy, quick reference. Super appreciated when you can break it down in a nice summary like that. Alrighty, guys, Forge RPG. I have to say, I'm pretty sure I've already said it, but I'm going to say it again, that in my opinion, and for the way that I like to GM personally, this is one of the very best games the OSR has to offer, and has definitely earned a place on my list of the Hasbro game alternatives I can easily recommend. Forge can also very easily become a one-and-done solution for those who want a complete OSR-style game with all the rules they might need in a very compact form. Just to explain this a little bit better, I have the 7x10 softcover copy of this book, and it is 64 pages long, but contains a more complete, well-rounded system that supports multiple GM styles and could be used to create other genres if desired, and I feel it does so with less pages than other games try to do. And that is a genius little move from Oliver that really makes Forge stand out to me personally. With such a great game like this, it's really no wonder why there's an active community surrounding Forge. That's pretty cool. On top of that, Oliver happens to be a member in that community. So most people can reach out to him and actually hear from him when they have questions. With all this put together, Forge is just one of those games you can feel really good about spending your money on, especially if you're just looking for one OSR style game to own and use. Sprinkle in after everything else that you can easily use adventures all the way from OD&D to current OSR style D20 games easily. And most of the conversions from what I have seen so far are very minimal, if any, and simple when they are. Oliver Fragile has created a nearly perfect OSR gaming system that has a little something for everyone. And I really can't give this game enough props, guys. I really have been impressed with it that much. But okay, guys, I better stop here or I'll just start to sound like an infomercial. I want to give a huge shout out to the Forge Discord community, a really nice group of players and GMs with some really great ideas of all their own. You guys are awesome out there. Keep doing what you do. I also have to just give the biggest of shout outs to Oliver Fragile himself. Dude, I know I've said it before, not only to you, but in this video, and I'm going to say it again. You should be very proud of what this is. I would love to see some supplements come out for this, kind of like that illustrated bestiary that I suggested, or maybe an adventure or two. Who knows what the future has to offer. But to encourage you on those endeavors, I do have to quote one of my players here who said, and I do quote, "My only regret is that Oliver doesn't have any other products that I can spend money on," end quote. And I second his thoughts 100%. All right, my people, I got to thank you so much for watching, for subscribing, for looking and discussing these games and creating communities around them. I really do love to showcase well-written, easy-to-use, independent games like this gem of a game, and hopes to make it better and easier for you to play for fun first. Thanks for watching, everybody.